We haven't committed to the fact that there won't be any deaths here. Definitely zero, let's say on a complete level, but in terms of gang violence, which is the ones who contributed the vast majority of homicides in our country, they have decreased. We believe that it is working with iron. It killed thousands, and with the same iron they killed him. With the silence about his whereabouts, it has finally revealed what happened to old Lin, an end more tragic than we could all imagine. Stay until the end of the video and find out. Barrio 18 was born as a street gang in Los Angeles. Although there are versions that suggest its beginnings in the late 1950s, the gang began to consolidate in the 1980s when it separated from the Clanton 14 gang. It became famous for its participation in the Los Angeles riots after the police who brutally beat the African-American Rodney King. Although the group's multiple cliques, which are cells, were initially acquitted, they were primarily made up of Mexican immigrants in Southern California and controlled areas such as MacArthur Park in the Korean section of downtown Los Angeles. However, as immigrants from other Latin American nationalities joined, Barrio 18 began recruiting members from diverse backgrounds, which facilitated its expansion into other countries, especially in Central America. In the late 1990s, a special FBI team and local authorities captured several prominent Barrio 18 leaders. This did not weaken the gang much, but rather provided it with another platform to operate and recruit. Federal prisons, despite attempts to isolate the leaders from their outside contacts and fellow inmates. Leaders such as Francisco Martinez, known as Puppet, found ways to continue controlling criminal activities from prison. Some Barrio 18 members also joined the gang. Mexican Mafia, a dangerous prison gang that united Southern California street gangs into a powerful confederation known as the Serenos. Although these gangs clash on the streets, inside prison they form a united structure. The Barrio 18 Mafia's dominance expanded southward, particularly into Mexico and Central America, primarily due to a change in immigration policies. In the mid-1990s, these policies expanded the range of crimes for which a foreign-born resident could be deported from their home country. This new policy was heavily enforced against California gangs, where there were many gang members who did not have U.S. citizenship. The resulting deportations caused a sudden increase in Barrio 18 gang members and other groups in Central American and Mexican countries, which led to an increase in violence and crime. Toward the end of the 1990s, they began Salvador. The Central American governments implemented stricter laws to penalize mere gang association. These policies, known as mano dura, hard hand, resulted in mass arrests of gang members that paradoxically fostered the growth of gangs by concentrating their members in prisons, allowing them to reorganize and strengthen their presence on the streets. Barrio 18 became involved in small-scale drug trafficking and extortion. With profits increasing, the gang also began laundering money through small businesses, such as car washes. By 2005, internal conflicts led to the division of Barrio 18V into two factions: the Revolutionaries, and the Serenos. These factions continue to clash and compete with the same intensity as they do with the MS-13, their historic enemy and the largest street gang in Central America. It increased its power in El Salvador, Guatemala, and Honduras, taking advantage of the incapacity of governments and widespread social exclusion to expand into impoverished urban areas. The gang began systematically extorting public transportation systems, displacing entire communities, and gaining ground in politics. This phenomenon became more evident in March 2012 when the leaders of Barrio 18 and their rivals, the MS-13, agreed to a national truce mediated by a government delegate and the Catholic Church. The homicide rate in the country fell by more than half after the negotiated ceasefire, but violence increased again once the truce failed. The leaders of the MS-13 and Barrio 18 proved adept at leveraging the political capital gained after the truce, raising concerns that the initiative could increase their criminal sophistication and influence in the country. Furthermore, extortion and disappearances apparently continued to increase in El Salvador during the truce, and homicides rose again in mid-2013, reaching a peak in 2015 before declining again starting in 2019. Or a drastic drop in the homicide rate in El Salvador, which put the country's gangs back in the spotlight. Although government officials attributed this decline to their national security plan, several media reports mentioned an informal agreement between sectors of the Salvadoran government and imprisoned gang leaders. According to this agreement, gang leaders would reduce murders in exchange for better prison conditions. This period of relative calm in El Salvador was interrupted when members of Barrio 18 and the MS-13 carried out a bloody three-day campaign in November 2021 that resulted in 46 homicides. A massacre subsequently occurred in March 2022 in which 92 people, including buyers, sellers, and bus passengers, lost their lives. Barrio 188 was quick to distance itself from this massacre. It was interpreted as a message directed at the government in response to this rampant violence. The government launched the most extensive war against gangs in the country's history during a state of emergency declared in March 2022 and continuing into November 2023. Tens of thousands of suspected gang members were arrested. This offensive has wreaked havoc among ordinary members of Barrio 18, forcing thousands into exile and resulting in a loss of control of key territories and criminal economies where they once held a stronghold. In November 2022, Honduran President Omar Castro attempted to replicate this offensive by declaring a state of deception to address the rise in extortion. However, these measures have failed to curb gang activities, and the ranks of Barrio 18 remain intact in Honduras. By the way, if you enjoy the video, we invite you to give us your like and activate the notification bell so you don't miss any of our new videos. We continue with the geography of Central America. Barrio 18 operates primarily in El Salvador, Guatemala, and Honduras. By mid-2023, the gang had more than 22,000 members in El Salvador alone. It also has a significant presence in the United States, with an estimated 30,000 to 50,000 members in the 2010s, operating in dozens of cities in nearly 20 states, although many of its members reside in California. Barrio 18 is also present in other cities in the western United States, such as Denver. The gang has also had a presence in Italy since the mid-2000s. In September 2016, the capture of an alleged Barrio 18 leader revealed the gang's desire to expand its presence in Europe. Spanish authorities warned of this danger when they arrested 15 Hondurans in 2023. Those suspected of trying to establish a Barrio 18 cell in Barcelona have also been reported of Barrio 18 members escaping the government's campaign in El Salvador to southern Mexico. Allies and enemies. Barrio 18's biggest rival is the MS-13. In El Salvador, Barrio 18 is divided into rival factions, the Revolucionarios and the Serenos. This division often leads to violence. The gang also has a close relationship with the Mexican mafia. It is known to have a network of collaborators that includes lawyers, taxi drivers, and mechanics. On many occasions, the gang has been involved in clashes with state security forces during successive anti-gang campaigns in Central America. The role of laws in confronting the maras. The Salvadoran Congress is controlled by allies. President Bukele has extended at least until the end of July an exceptional regime that allows arrests without a warrant. The measure began at the end of March in reaction to 87 murders that occurred over a weekend, all attributed to gang activities. Parliament has also toughened penalties for belonging to these organizations, mainly the MS-1 and Barrio 18, which operate in the country. These organizations, among other things, are dedicated to drug trafficking and extortion. Before the government's withdrawal, some 16,000 of its members were imprisoned. However, with the arrests of the last 3 months, 5,908 would be behind bars. 84% of the 70,000 members officially considered to exist in the country. The majority of those detained are still awaiting trial, while humanitarian organizations and even the United States government have called on El Salvador to respect human rights. Old Lin, the one who dies like an iron. This is what has been said since ancient times, and that when a person takes the path of evil, It is what is repeated to drug traffickers every time they enter that world. Because just as they take the lives of thousands of people along the way, they're also slowly digging their own grave, where, sooner rather than later, they end up meeting an end just like the people they once killed in cold blood without any kind of piety. Old Lin was no exception to this rule, as the same thing happened to him. Among the little information available about him, it was revealed that the police arrived too late to take down the well-known gang leader, since the Zetas group arrived early to capture and subsequently kill the man who had once caused them so much trouble. Although there is no official video, a couple of videos have become popular in the last week where you can clearly see Old Lin's face pleading for mercy and human empathy, but as if he were dealing with wild animals. The mercy shown to the poor man is too little. This horrible case shows us how he can only get out of this business in two ways. The first sounds like jail, and the second sounds like death. From what we saw with Old Lin, we can say that jail doesn't sound so bad. So we come to the end of this video. If you liked it, I invite you to give us a like so we can continue making more videos like this. Also, don't forget to subscribe and activate the bell so you don't miss any of our new videos. I wish you a great day until next time.